All right, this is the measurement lab. So in this lab, we're going to measure the 5 different things that we're going to be able to measure in this class. So at each table, there's going to be a digital scale. There's going to be a small little beaker. There's going to be a thermometer, a meter stick, a graduated cylinder, and a cup of water. So there's a lot involved in this lab. Now, the first part is measuring time. So for time, we are going to use the stopwatch on our phone, right? So we're going to time how long it takes for us to do this lab. Ask for the unit for time. But what I'm going to do is, you can see here, I'll just start the time, and we're going to time how long it takes us to complete this lab. So we'll set that aside. So we'll come back to time. All right, now the next part is going to be volume. Now for volume, we're going to use the graduated cylinder. Now this part asks you to fill the graduated cylinder up to 50 milliliters, up to that line. So what you're going to do is you're going to make sure your eyes are level with where you're pouring it, and you want to pour it up to the 50. Now remember, when you're measuring with the graduated cylinder, you want your eyes level so you can see the bottom of the meniscus. We're going to measure from the bottom of that meniscus. So you can see here, I do have 50 milliliters of water. I spilled a little there. All right, now the next part, we're going to measure the length of this. We're gonna use this meter stick to measure the length of the thermometer, right? Because I don't want to put out any other laboratory equipment, and it's fairly easy to measure the length. So all you're gonna do is we are gonna use the metric side. So that's the centimeters. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that ruler down, and I'm gonna lay that thermometer flush with the 0 mark at the very end. So you might not be able to see it, but it's just about, this one is about just about 30 centimeters. So fairly easy to do that. All right, now the next part is going to be measuring the temperature. So now that we measured the thermometer, I'm going to go ahead and just put the thermometer into that cup of water. It's going to measure it into the cup of water, and we're looking for degrees Celsius. So it does take a little bit for the thermometer, so just wait a minute, and you should have that stopwatch going. So you just wait a minute, but for the sake of the video, we'll just pretend we waited a minute, and then you can look and you can see what the temperature of that water is. All right, so now that we've measured the temperature of the water, we're going to get to mass. So the first thing it tells you to do is you turn it on, and then you 0 the scale. So you always want to hit this 0 button first, because sometimes there could be something on the scale, but we just want to make sure we start at 0. Now, what it asks you to do is it asks you to take this little beaker, it's about 50 milliliters, and set it on the scale. Right? So now it's going to ask you what the mass is. So the mass will be displayed there. Now the next part asks you to 0 the scale. So now with the beaker on it, right, 0 the scale. So I'm going to hit that again. Now notice the number goes to 0. So it's just pretending like this beaker isn't on there, and we're just going to measure everything that goes into the beaker. All right, and then you're supposed to explain, well, what does zeroing do? Right? What does zeroing do, and why would we want to do that? All right, so now the next part, it is going to tell us to pour the water that we have in here. So 50 milliliters, we pour that into the beaker on the scale. So it's zeroed, right? We're just going to pour it onto that scale, that digital balance. Almost goes up to the top, right? And we'll be able to tell the mass of just the water. So this isn't counting the beaker, right? We zeroed that out. It's just counting the mass of the water. All right, and the last thing that you're going to do is you are going to stop that stopwatch. So you can see here it took us about 4 minutes, just a little over 4 minutes to do, and then we're going to write that down. So once again, this has been the Measurement Lab.